Hi everyone, I want to tell you about an absolutely awesome patient of mine called Jane. Well, that's not her name, but that's what I'm going to call her. I saw her quite a while ago actually, and she has taught me lots and made me think a lot, and so that's why I want to share my thoughts about Jane. She's awesome. She came to see me because she was a keen triathlete, and she still is, and she was having a little bit of leakage when she ran. And she wasn't willing to accept that leakage at all, as no woman or man should be. So she had got herself to a physio, having seen online. Now, as the way it always is with these assessments, you start off with a little bit of leakage, and then the more that you talk to someone, you find out actually she was having quite a lot of pain down below. And it really did hurt when her bladder filled. It got worse, it made the aching worse, and when her bladder emptied, it made it feel better, and she'd found that she'd had to go really often, so like every 45 minutes to an hour, which isn't conducive to working. And she was having to rush off quite a lot, especially on the school run. She couldn't pick up the kids, and a few times she actually wet herself. And they had a bit of a mums club going on, where a few of the mums all wear jumpers around their waist because they occasionally have these issues. So Jane was awesome because she hadn't accepted her symptoms, and she also had done a lot of seeking out and finding ways to sort her symptoms. So she came to me with this awesome jigsaw of issues with only a few pieces missing. And she basically came to me and said, I think I've got bladder pain syndrome because I've got this history and it's been going on this while, and I've got these symptoms, and I'm doing that makes it better, and everything that I've heard you say online and everything that I've read kind of tells me this. And it was brilliant. She was an absolutely awesome patient, those ones that you just love. And she did really well because I was in that very privileged position where I could just put those few little pieces in for her and say, well, this is why your bowels might behave like this, and this is why your bowels might actually affect your bladder, and this is why the anxiety that you're feeling at certain points might actually heighten your pain. And this is how we're going to find a way out of it by hitting these 5 key steps, as I call them, to making sure that you kind of manage that condition more effectively. And she did brilliantly. Within 8 weeks, her symptoms were much better, to the point where really she hasn't got anything to talk about. Everything's settled down really well. She's had a couple of flare-ups since, but they've both been managed by her better. And now we're just working on tweaking her running style and looking at ways in which she can improve her control down below, so that and not by making it stronger, but just by working on different patterns to improve her triathlon ability. So she's working on a running and a swimming, which is awesome. And Jane isn't one of those common patients. So Jane epitomised what I'm trying to do, and it's taken me a while, but she's absolutely the patient that I want to create, or that I want to enable. So Jane is empowered, and that's the key. Jane is empowered to create her own health management process. She was different to normal patients that we see, or regular patients come through often, in that she had known where to go for information about her condition. She had filtered her searches, and she had taken useful information, applied it, and then said, right, so the bit of the puzzle that I haven't got, I need to see you, and then come to see me, which was great. Now, most patients aren't like that, and in a good way, but also, they're thankfully hopeful. Well, some of them are Google searching, which is, we all hate when they kind of say, I saw this on Google, and you think, oh, what have you read? Because there's too much out there. So most patients don't come with that lovely jigsaw with a few pieces that you can just kind of slot in and say, well, this is what you need to do, and see you later 8 weeks later. Most patients come with kind of a box of random stray pieces, some of which aren't completely connected to the same puzzle, and they don't fit, and there's so much else going on and extraneous, and you can often feel like you're trying to put together 4 or 6 different puzzles, and it doesn't really work. And the difference with Jane is that she was empowered, and the speed at which she got better, and the way that she has continued to manage her condition with no real issue now. She's, after something like 17 years worth of pain, she's managing with barely any pain, no medication, just managing her condition independently. It's because she was empowered, and it was heartening to see, and it's one of those things that you don't see often in our role sometimes, ever. So Jane got me thinking, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to empower people to have the skills to have the knowledge, to have the education to be able to manage themselves, because we know the evidence shows that if people can manage themselves, they do much better from a health outcomes point of view for the longer term, and they do better than when the health professionals manage them, if that makes sense. Now, physios are great, but we're not gods, and sometimes we'll kind of get to that point where we say, I'm going to wiggle something, I'm going to stretch something, I'm going to give you this program, and that's all well and good when there are specific issues, but again, it's about educating that patient about why you're doing this and encouraging them that they may want to then continue doing something which then will help them. And so sometimes patients get to the point quite often where they need to see you for treatment, or they need to latch on, they need to receive something. And actually, if anything that I've learned in my life is that empowering people is incredible, and the results that you can get from empowering patients with pelvic pain to understand the condition and then to manage themselves is incredible. And the reason, this is the difficult bit, the reason that I know this is because I'm a patient. And I don't talk about this, I talk about it all the time with my peers, so people I work with know, most of the people I work with have known me for 10 years. But I don't talk about it often in any public sphere. But I've learned actually this is my why. This is why I do what I do in the way that I do. And I think that's important for anybody that wants to come and work with me ever to understand. So if you don't know me, brief history. I'm a patient. I shouldn't really be alive. About 9 years ago, I had about 40% heart function and a couple of heart attacks. And a local cardiologist did a fantastic plumbing job and cut me open, sorted me out, put me back together, and I was fixed but not cured. So I had about a year off work. I was deathly sick, lots of issues, and I went to cardiac rehab, and it was fab. And it was all an emergency job, so I had no idea this was going to go on. And cardiac rehab did what they're meant to do, which is patch you up, get you back walking, this kind of stuff. And it was fine. It did what it needed to do. But I finished cardiac rehab with 54% heart function, which is technically still in the kind of failure place. So my breathing wasn't good. I couldn't walk far. I couldn't get upstairs, and I was 21. So there was not much in the way of quality of life. So what I didn't have other health professionals empowering me to understand my condition and to find ways in which to manage it. And it's in that year after surgery, the hardest year of my life, where I learnt that empowering people to care for themselves and to understand what's going on is absolutely key. That's what we should be aiming for. Because I had one great physio in cardiac rehab who was really, really, really supportive, lovely. Elaine, thank you so much. And she gave me tips and tricks and little things to work on and gave me the confidence to start looking at things. But really, I had a huge job seeking out the right information, seeking out sources and ways of going about things and trying to get myself fit and healthy and get myself out of this kind of heart failure bracket and just try to have any kind of quality of life. I had an amazing family around me, well, 2 families and extended families, lots of close friends, but really no one could help me dig myself out of this apart from me. So I had to find the information. I had to do a quick learning curve about a very rare condition where there are 7 people in the UK that currently have it. Well, here you go, me. And understand how I could manage it and understand how I could have any quality of life. So there was a period of time where I went to the gym every day for 8 months. I might have only sat on a bike for 2 minutes, but I did it. It took me about a year before I could do a sit-up. And I powered my way back, and it took about 2 years to get really to the point where I felt comfortable being out and about, walking to the shops, carrying things, and it probably took about 4 or 5 years before I got beyond that. And in the whole of that time, lots of things happen, because when you go through any kind of big emergency condition that isn't understood or planned for, your team, I have an amazing medical team, and I count my team as 3, maybe 4 consultants. They're just kind of trying to work out what's going on. So quite a few things went wrong, and in that time I learnt that I needed to empower myself, that I didn't need to ask permission, but I needed to do the things myself. So there were a couple of times where my bloods were mixed up and they weren't managed as well as they could be, and I live on a bit of a knife edge that if my bloods are too thin or too thick, I could potentially have a stroke and die. Hooray! So I started testing myself. The minute that you take a thing that you're trying to do and understand and it's in someone else's hands, and you bring it into your own domain where you are responsible for it, stress levels go down. Yeah, I can go on holiday, I can do anything I want, I just need to test my blood, it's fine. So that whole process of learning, of finding the health professionals that could help me, of having access to them when I needed to, which is why I love my medical team. I've got their mobile numbers, which is incredible because they're NHS clinicians. I don't use them unless I need to, and there's a few times that I've needed to, but having someone on the end of the phone that you can ring and say, I've got chest pain, I don't think it's a heart attack, I've had 3, I know what they look like, but could I just come in and maybe talk to you about it, or do you need to tell me what to do on the phone, is amazing. And so from that experience, it has absolutely shaped the clinician that I am, the health provider. Because there are 2 key things that, as a patient, you need your health providers to do. When you see them, you have to know that they've got your back and they're interested. When they're going to say that they're going to do something, you absolutely need them to do it. Because to them it might not be very much, but to you it's very important because it's your life. So when I was baby physio and rotating around the local NHS, having a great time working on the wards and big teams and learning loads and great. But the repeated feedback from my rotations were 2 things that were, one was, it's really good that you care, but maybe sometimes you do a bit too much caring, and maybe you do a bit much for each patient. And what my timekeeper was fine, but what that meant was that if someone needed me to ring the GP about getting sleeping medication because actually they've been having a terrible time sleeping, I would spend 3 days every day ringing the GP to try and get them on sleeping medication. I wouldn't palm off that job onto one of the nursing staff. If I said I was going to do it, I would do it. There was one day when I went and got a brace for an old lady who was lovely, to brace her knee so she could go home, because that day she wanted to get home for complicated things, and it caused a massive furore because I was about 10 minutes late leaving because I was strapping it onto her knee and sorting her out, and people continually said that to me. And I the people that I respect and that I work with now, and the mentors I've had through my masters and other things, never said that to me, and they're the people that get it, that you have to give a small amount of care to each patient, small, large, but you know, for that period of time that you're with them, you're with them. The other thing was that wherever I rotated round, I tended to have a little bit of I think a few people used to say, oh, it's the Gilly hotline on the phone. Because if you have something going on and you need to talk to someone, you need to talk to someone. And for the patients where I was that key link and I needed to be aware of changes in their condition, or I just really understood and felt that they were in a bad place and they needed some support, I would give the phone number for the department and say, if you've got a problem, give me a ring. You know, that's what I'm here for. And only 1 or 2 patients a week would ring me, but they'd ring me when they needed to. They needed to because something was going wrong, or they needed to for reassurance. And that's okay. And I've moved on now. Now I use email, which is a lot easier. And it does take time up, but that's what I am a clinician to do. I am there to be there for my patients. I understand, as a patient, that if I'm not there for my patients, their quality of care is not provided. There is no quality of care provided, and that's what I would expect of someone caring for me, and what I have been shown by my medical team. So now patients email me and I say, you know what, these days I can get back to you, after that day I can't, and they understand that, and they'll, you know, email me when they can. Fab. And that's 2 of the things that I do, and I still continue to do. I do what I say I'm going to do, and I make sure that I'm available to them. Oh, there's a cat trying to get in. You're going to have to wait, I'm afraid, cat. And there are a couple of things that I say to patients regularly. So one of them is, this isn't rocket science. And another one is, you know, but what do you think's going on with your body? Because I'm not in your body, and you've lived in it for however many years. You're the expert in your body. You know, I'm trying to get you to have the understanding that you have the innate skill within yourself. The cat's talking to me. Let me open the door. Come on, animal. Come on in. but trying to teach my patients that they have the innate skill within themselves to be able to achieve change, to be able to create that change in their movement pattern, or change in their pain, or change in their management. And I do that from the point of view of really truly understanding. I understand, don't scratch that, thank you, oh animals. I understand that I understand chronic pain, I understand I've been in it, I understand the fear of a condition, and I understand the necessity to reach out to medical professionals and the fear that if you can't get to them, that creates. And I've come beyond that to empower myself, because no one else could do it for me, to manage my own health condition by lots of different things. So if we can create that in our patients, they don't have to rely on us so much to be able to do that. Hurrah! You know, they are the masters of their own destiny. That's really important when we think about the NHS, and certainly when I left the NHS I had a huge amount of guilt that lived with me, that I wasn't able to provide equity of care, and I was not going to be able to work in the same way with the same scope of people. And actually that isn't quite right, because my experience so far in private is very similar to NHS, but I have the ability to do all those things that I was just talking about, spend the time with people and not go the extra mile, go what I would expect of a healthcare provider. So I have the ability to do that, but I know the teams when I was in the NHS don't. And if someone has bladder pain syndrome, like Jane, and she has a flare-up, and she knows that this awful pain just won't go away, and she's living with it. We only get that awareness of that pain for 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe an hour, every now and then in our lives from patients. But if she's living with that for 24, 48, 72 hours, excruciating pain, not being able to cope with going to the toilet, lots of things going on, and she doesn't have the ability to change that symptom. One second. Animal, come in. He's gone. If she doesn't have the ability to change those symptoms herself, she knows that she's got to see me. She's got to book an appointment to see her physio, because the physiotherapy, releasing a pelvic floor, doing lots of other stuff, I'm her only hope at the moment, because she's probably been through the consultant and gone through a lot of different tests and lots of different treatments, and nothing's worked, which is generally how they used to end up in physio. And if she rings the department and she can't get an appointment for 3 or 4 weeks, which is where we were a while ago when I left, then what's she going to do? How's that going to affect her mood? How's that going to affect her socialisation with her peer group? How's that going to affect everything? Relying on healthcare providers to change your life for you is, in small doses, useful, but in kind of longer term is not a viable healthcare model, let alone a good way of having a quality of life. So when I left the NHS, I had this big kind of huge pressure and power feeling on my shoulders that I needed to change things so that I could empower patients. And bladder pain syndrome is my area of interest, and I was thinking about how I can do that. One of the simple things is to look at TheraOnes. So, which now Pelvi Ones, or Easy Magic, people also use those. Now these devices can do what we do, and patients can use them to release their own pelvic floors. It can provide similar symptom relief. And I went into the Masters so that I could find out categorically whether or not we can achieve that. And obviously with the Masters you don't find out categorically anything, but the research I did showed it was very suggestive that actually with using a TheraWand we can create a very similar treatment response, and actually if you're having treatment at the same time we can enhance your treatment response. That's got to go to full RCT, and it's going to be multi-centre at some point in the future when I get round to the PhD. But until then, I now have some basis for being able to say to my patients, you know what, let's learn how to use, and let me teach you how to use this TheraWand, and then all the great benefit that you've had from me recently from being able to release your pelvic floor, you're going to be able to do on your own. Because it's not rocket science, and you have that innate ability within you to change your symptoms. You are better at doing this than me because you are in your body and I'm not. I don't know how it feels. So you're going to be better at doing this than I am. I just need to teach you the skills and give you the knowledge to be safe, to be able to drop your pelvic floor and to manage your symptoms better. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because my dream as a clinician and as a patient is that we empower patients to be able to take control of their own health narrative. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, as a GP told me when she was in France drinking, she'd been, was at a vineyard, 4 in the morning, she had her first glass of red wine in something like 9 years because I'd helped her to resolve lots of her bladder pain symptoms. She woke up with horrendous bladder pain. She got in the bath, she used a Therabond because that's where she liked to use it, and by 4:45 in the morning she was able to go back to sleep. Now beforehand that would have been 2 or 3 weeks of using high dose opioids, trying to reduce her pain. All because she was actually empowered to be able to manage her own health condition and innately change her symptoms herself. That's my dream. My dream is that we have lots of Janes, that they come to us when they have the little pieces of the picture that we just need to fill in. And the way that we do that is by educating and empowering patients. And that's why I'm running the courses. So my dream is that we have a huge body of pelvic health physios who are knowledgeable and skillful in managing bladder pain syndrome and confident in how to empower their patients to know how to ask for the right person to speak to and use the right tools and do the right things and understand how their symptoms all merge together, and be confident in that when you get reoccurrences and you get little blips in the road, because they're normal and I tracked them, and I'll show you all the graphs as soon as it's published. The journal hasn't come out yet. So that's why I'm running it. So if you're interested and you want to be a clinician that empowers your patients with bladder pain syndrome, and you've listened this far, well done, and you are as passionate about giving that quality, because it doesn't need to be private health provision. I can give the same quality and the same duration and the same frequency, and I used to. If you are passionate about giving patients the chance to manage themselves, then come and work with me on the Happy Bladder course. I've got Cardiff is coming up in about a month's time. I'd love to have you in Cardiff. It is a wonderful part of the world. It's going to be sunny and glorious, I hope. I'm praying to the weather gods. And in November I'm going to be in Ireland and in London in the spring, and I would love to take it somewhere in the north of England or Scotland, not the north of Scotland, somewhere south of Scotland, at some point as well, if anyone will have me, because we can all do that. We can all create Jane. We can all be that clinician, be that empowering clinician that changes the health narrative for patients. The evidence shows that it gets better outcomes faster and to a higher level than anything we can do in physio. Doesn't mean that you're not going to use your skills. You're going to blooming use them. You're going to use all of them. You're going to use clinical reasoning like a ninja. But you are going to empower your patient to be able to walk out your door after however many sessions, but hopefully feeling loads better. Really, just going, yeah, it's fine, I'm in control of my life, I know what to do with my symptoms, and maybe tap back into you when they have reoccurrences or they have blips in the road, which is normal. So thank you for listening this far if you have, and I'll put a link down to the course below. And I hope to speak to you soon, but if not, if you've got any questions or queries, I'd love to hear from you. I'm always up for a chat about bladder pain syndrome or using Therabonds or empowering patients. And this has been terrifying because I don't talk public about myself very much, so thanks for listening this far, and I shall speak to you all soon.